I've been saying this for a while now, but my eventual goal is to finish the Wheel of Time series so that I can start making videos on that universe just as I make videos on the Cosmere. A while back, I finished the first book in the series and I really enjoyed it. Well, today I'll be reviewing the second book in Robert Jordan's epic fantasy series, The Wheel of Time, The Great Hunt. I honestly had no idea where this book would go since it's only the second book in an extremely long series. Would it build on the foundations the first book laid, or would it just expand from there to reveal more of the scope of the world? Well, I have to say, I was fairly impressed that it managed to do both effortlessly, but we'll get to that in a moment. Hello and welcome to my review of the second Wheel of Time book, The Great Hunt. And before we start, in my last review I included a spoiler-filled section at the end of the spoiler-free review and you all seem to like it. However, the spoiler sections added on makes the video quite long and cumbersome to get through. So going forward, I'll be doing my reviews as normal with a second follow-up video afterwards where we do a general discussion on the book with all spoilers. I'll make an exception if the book was short and thus the review is short too, in which case I'll just put it all in one video. But since this is a large book and I intend to really dive into this universe, I want to go deep into details. So for these books and other larger books like it, I'll be splitting the review up into two videos, the spoiler-free one and the spoiler-filled discussion. Anyway, let's jump right in, starting with character. Eye of the World introduced the core group of protagonists to us and set them on their journey. This book dives deeper into the characters we've met who didn't get as much page time as the rest in the first book, while also still giving us insights into the main cast. First and foremost, we get to see Rand fight with himself about his abilities and his place in the world. We see a lot less of Perrin, though it does seem like he's coming to grips with his own identity as well. Matt is a lot more enjoyable to read this time around for spoilery reasons, but he also doesn't get a whole lot of expanding on. So of the three boys from Emond's Field, Rand is really the one who gets the most time devoted to him and the most expansion on him as a character, though that's understandable considering he's the primary protagonist. Then we have Egwene and Nynaeve. We see a lot more of them in this book as well, and we get a lot of development from them, especially Egwene, but I don't feel like their character arcs have even gotten off to a proper start yet. The story seems to be setting them up for some big things in the White Tower, but not a lot of that got explored in this book just yet it seems. I'll talk more about this in the spoiler video. Moiraine and Lan got a lot less screen time in this book, which surprised me. I figured they'll be pivotal and important characters for the whole series, but there was almost no development from them barring one or two scenes. I just hope there will be more of them since I've definitely started to take a liking to them. Oh yeah, and Loyal is also there, but he still feels very much like a side character with not much to him beyond what's readily apparent. Not a bad thing, but he hasn't really developed at all. We also get more on other characters we briefly met in the first book, like Elaine and Min, as well as Lord Ingtar from the Borderlands. We also meet some new characters like Hurin and Serene, more on her in the spoiler video. There's also the introduction of new factions and antagonists that I enjoyed as well. Overall, the second book seems to be following the trend of the first in that it is building and growing our understanding of these characters while also expanding onto the new ones. Robert Jordan clearly knows how to write characters well, so I'll give the Wild Hunt's characters a solid 8 out of 10. Not exactly as good as the first book, but still a very good score. Plot. The Great Hunt's plot seems very classic fantasy for me, and I think that's intentional here. For those of you who have dabbled in MMORPG games, the best way I can describe the plot of this book is to call it a fetch quest. The baddies have taken something from our heroes and they need to chase after them and get it back. This isn't to say it's bad or anything, since I fully enjoyed the plot of the book. The goal from the outset was clearly defined and the plot centered around achieving that goal. I really enjoyed it compared to the first, since the Eye of the World's plot felt very unfocused, where this one had a clear path and direction. And it isn't all as straightforward and typical either. There's definitely some twists and turns in the plot as it goes along, and new elements get introduced that definitely shook things up a little. There isn't much more to say on the plot itself since it's fairly simple conceptually. So with that said, I'd like to give the overall plot for The Great Hunt a well-deserved 7 out of 10. It definitely fixed the issue I had with the first book's plot and meandered in a way that I found fresh and enjoyable despite the goal being so straightforward. World building. The world building in this book seems to have gone wide instead of deep in terms of its expansion. A lot of things I thought would be built on or expanded on from the first, like the different kingdoms, the Aes Sedai, the breaking of the world, the Blight, and a whole lot more, were kind of left behind in lieu of adding more to the world. Now, I absolutely love world building, so if Robert Jordan wants to throw these things at me, then I say bring it on. I can handle multiple different things being thrown my way, and I can take having to remember different concepts, places, and more. So that I have no issue with. I just wish we were given a bit more of a solid understanding of the world and aspects we've been introduced to before things got expanded. And I'm sure that eventually everything will be explained and my understanding will be solid. I mean, this is a very long series, but I'm still left feeling a bit clueless about a lot of the world. I gave the world building in the first book a 10 out of 10 because I understood that it is just laying the foundations. And I suppose that this book is also laying the foundations considering the scope of the series. It just felt a bit unfortunate that we didn't get more explanation on some concepts. That said, it was still very well done and we still got to see a lot of the world, so I'm not going to be deducting major points for it. Overall, I'll give the world building score an 8 out of 10. It's still really good and we get introduced to a whole lot more of the world than before. But if you're new to the series like I am, then don't expect a whole lot of information on some of the things we got introduced to originally. Magic. This will probably be the shortest section here since I can't very easily talk about the magic without straying into spoiler territory. So I'll say a few brief things and then leave the rest for the spoiler video. So we don't get a lot of expansion on the male half of the One Power, which makes a lot of sense. There's nobody in the world who actually knows how to use it, so naturally there wouldn't be a lot that could be said about it. We do, however, get more explanation on the female half. We see Egwene and Nynaeve get some training, as well as some of the things they're able to do. While the first book seemed to make the magic very much a spectacle, this book grounds it a bit more and allows us to gain some insight into how it works. It still feels very much like a soft magic system, but that's likely only because we've barely dipped our toes into the story, it seems. We also see just how destructive and powerful the magic can be, as well as how a completely different culture has embraced the magic and its users. So while the magic is excruciatingly slow in being explained to us, I still enjoy it and it still feels very right in this world Robert Jordan has created. So overall, I'd give the magic in this book a well-deserved 9 out of 10. We got some explanation on the magic and its concepts, which helped it get a lot more grounded while also leaving it mysterious and intriguing. Overall, very well done. Structure. I've come to really enjoy the way Robert Jordan's books are structured. Looking at the 3 key pillars of the structure, that being the pacing, the prose, and how all the elements came together, I'd say he hit it out of the park again. The book is a slow burn, as was the first, but it never felt boring or plodding. I enjoyed the rate at which new things were developed and were resolved, and I also enjoyed how we never lingered on one thing too long. So pacing wise, RJ did a very good job here. And I'll stick with my comment from the first book's review. I love Robert Jordan's prose, I just find it a whole lot more appealing than a lot of modern authors, and that's including Brandon Sanderson. The prose in this book was another example of beautiful prose that wasn't too overdone while also not too bare bones. Finally, we look at how all the elements came together, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if I said it all came together extremely well. Concepts were introduced and brought up before they became relevant, and everything felt like it had a place in the overall narrative. Superbly put together for sure. With all of that said, I'd like to give the structure a very well-deserved 9 out of 10. I think that Robert Jordan's books will be some of my favourite of all time if this keeps up, but I am aware there's apparently a long slog in this series, so we'll see if this holds up. But with everything said and all of that wrapped up, I'd give the overall score for the second Wheel of Time book, The Great Hunt, a very well-deserved and excellent score of 8.2 out of 10. On par with the quality of the first book and even slightly better in some cases. Robert Jordan did incredible work here and did so without dropping in quality, so I highly recommend this book if you haven't read it yet. And remember that if you're interested in buying the book, I have an affiliate link in the description below. I'll have these links for all the books I discuss in my videos going forward, so if you'd like to grab a book and support the channel at the same time, please consider doing so through my link. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.